In today's video, is there really a way to pay people to compensate employees to get them to be more creative and more innovative? Let's find out. What is going on YouTube? Jamie Potter here, PhD in organizational behavior from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. My goal in this channel is to unlock the value of research for organizations and employees. Today, I am talking about arguably one of the most important topics in organizational research for employees. I know I say that every week, but I really mean it this time. It is the idea of compensation or pay structure. How do we pay employees to get the most out of them? And in particular, the paper I look at this week is a really interesting twist on that because it's looking at how to pay people to reward innovation or creativity, which actually turns out to be a little more complicated because what the standard research in this area of pay or compensation structure looks at is it sort of dichotomizes pay into either fixed rate, you're paid $50,000 a year and that's it, or pay for performance or piece rate. If you're in an area of work like sales or manufacturing or work on an assembly line, you can be paid for each unit that you produce, or in sales, each sale that you get some chunk or commission of that. So the initial literature in this area kind of looks at those two and tries to answer the question generally, is pay for performance beneficial? What it finds, and kind of as you'd expect, is pay for performance is very beneficial for certain tasks. In particular, if it's a task where effort leads pretty concretely to performance, right? There's not many other variables. If I work harder, I'm going to do better at it. Again, like an assembly line, if I work hard there, if I work more hours, I'm going to put more pieces together. In cases like that, pay for performance is very beneficial. However, when you're trying to reward something that's a bit more nebulous, like creativity, effort doesn't necessarily lead to more creativity. It can. There's actually interesting research that shows that persistence is actually undervalued as a predictor of creativity, but it doesn't always, right? There are a lot of other variables other than effort that lead to creativity. So this really fascinating paper from Florian Ederer, who's now at the Yale School of Management, and a colleague looks at what's the best structure to pay people to get them to be innovative and creative. And what they come to, for one, in a really interesting experiment that they run, it's kind of very much a behavioral economics experiment. I don't want to go into too much of a tangent there, but they actually create this sort of computer simulation where people have to decide where to place a lemonade stand and also how to make the lemonade, like what sugar content, other things like that. And in the computer simulation, there's a certain reward, right? If they move the lemonade stand to the correct location and they make the correct formula or recipe for the lemonade, they get paid more. And the experimenters in this case vary the compensation structure to find out what's the best for getting people to take risks. Because there are a lot of different choices in this experiment of where you can move the lemonade stand, how much sugar you put in it, how tart it is, many different things. So in order to find the correct solution, of which there is one in this experiment, it's programmed into this sort of game around the lemonade. In order to find that, you really have to experiment and take risks. So they look at the compensation structure that best induces that, people to take risks and therefore find the correct solution. And what they find, without further ado,
until the magician produces a rabbit from a hat, like that,
is neither pay for performance or a fixed rate is best. It's actually this sort of mix between them. What I mean by that is the best way to pay people to induce innovation is to have pay for performance at the end only. But at the beginning, You don't want pay for performance, because when people are taking these risks and trying to innovate and be creative, you don't want to punish them because they're not going to perform as well when they're taking these risks. However, over time, once they have taken these risks to innovate, presumably down the road, let's say after a year in the job, they are going to start performing better. So what you actually do is you delay the pay for performance. Let's say you're a CEO coming in, it might be best to reward them with sort of longer term incentives, or kind of give them a year where it's sort of a free pass to take risks and make mistakes. And by doing so, you allow them the ability to explore a bit and to find that sort of optimal solution. However, over time, it is important to have that pay for performance to get people to sort of put the effort in, because when you have just a fixed rate, people are more likely to shirk and just not work as hard because they're not being rewarded if they do 60 hours a week instead of 50. So to really get that innovation, kind of a creative paper here, you need to mix these different pay structures, give people time to sort of figure out things, take risks, and don't punish them for that. But then over time, sort of implement that pay for performance so people are rewarded for taking those risks and continue to work hard over time. So that is it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's a very relevant, practical one. As always, definitely subscribe to the channel, check out my old videos, comment below or on LinkedIn. I respond very quickly to any questions I get. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Bye.